Once in a small village, there lived a boy named Leo. Leo was kind, but he was very poor. His parents worked hard, but they had little money. Still, Leo never complained. He always smiled and helped others. But deep inside, he wished for a better life. Not just for himself, but for his parents and all the people in the village. One day, while walking near the old forest, Leo saw something shining under a big tree. He ran to see what it was. It was a book, a very old book with a golden cover. The book looked magical. His heart started beating fast. "Who left this here?" Leo whispered. He picked it up and brushed off the dust. The moment he touched it, the book started to glow. Suddenly, the book opened by itself. Leo's eyes widened. The pages had words, but they were not normal words. The letters moved like they were alive. Then, a soft voice came from the book. "Hello, young boy. I am the magical Book of Wishes. If your heart is pure, I can grant you 3 wishes." Leo couldn't believe his ears. "Really? 3 wishes?" "Yes," the book replied. "But remember, wishes should come from the heart. If they are selfish, they may not bring true happiness." Leo thought deeply. He could wish for gold, a big house, or anything he wanted. But then he looked around. He saw the village. He saw hungry children, tired farmers, and broken houses. He took a deep breath. "For my first wish," he said, "I want everyone in my village to have enough food forever." The book glowed brightly, and suddenly, magic spread through the air. The village fields turned green, fruits grew on trees, and every home had baskets full of food. Leo ran back to the village. People were crying with happiness. "Leo, look at this," an old woman said, showing a table full of bread and fruits. Leo smiled. His heart felt warm. He had made the right choice. That night, he opened the book again. "For my second wish," he said, "I want everyone in my village to be healthy and strong." Once again, the book glowed, and magic spread across the village. The sick became well, the weak became strong, and everyone felt full of energy. Leo saw a little girl who was always sick, now running and laughing. A man who couldn't walk was now dancing. Tears filled Leo's eyes. "You have one last wish," the book said. "Choose wisely." Leo thought and thought. Then he looked at the book and said, "For my third wish, I want everyone to have kind hearts, so they always help each other and never fight." The book glowed one last time. A warm feeling spread through the village. People hugged, helped each other, and shared everything with love. The book spoke again. "Leo, you have used your wishes well. You chose love and kindness over riches. You are truly special." Then the book slowly faded away, but its magic stayed forever in the village. Years passed, and the village became the happiest place in the world. People lived in peace, shared with each other, and never let anyone suffer alone. Leo grew up to be a wise and respected man. He had no gold or treasure, but he had something far greater: love, respect, and happiness. And so, the magic of kindness and selflessness continued to live in every heart. Let this story remind us, true magic is not in gold or power. It is in kindness, love, and the way we help others. As years passed, the village became a shining example of love and kindness. People from faraway lands came to see this magical place where no one was hungry, no one was sick, and everyone cared for each other. Leo, now a grown man, often sat under the same big tree where he had found the magical book. He would smile, watching the children play, the farmers sing as they worked, and the elders tell stories to the young. One day, a traveler came to the village. He had heard of this place and wanted to see it with his own eyes. He was a rich man, dressed in fine clothes, and carried a heavy bag of gold. But his eyes were sad, as if something was missing in his life. He walked up to Leo and asked, "How did this village become so beautiful? What is your secret?" Leo smiled and said, "Love, kindness, and the magic of giving." The traveler was confused. "Love, kindness, I don't understand. I have gold, power, and everything I ever wanted, but I don't feel happy." Leo looked at him gently. "Come with me," he said. He took the traveler around the village. They saw a boy giving his last piece of bread to a hungry bird. A young girl was helping an old man carry water. A farmer shared his crops with a family who had little. Everywhere, people were smiling not because they had gold, but because they had each other. The traveler felt something deep inside his heart. He had never seen such happiness. He thought about his own life. He had spent years collecting gold, but he had never shared it with anyone. He had built a big house, but it was always empty. He looked at Leo with tears in his eyes. "I finally understand," he said. "True happiness comes not from taking, but from giving." Leo nodded. "When you give with a pure heart, life gives you back more than you can ever imagine." The traveler smiled for the first time in years. He took his bag of gold and gave it to the village, asking them to use it for schools, gardens, and helping those in need. From that day, he decided to stay in the village. He worked alongside the farmers, played with the children, and helped the elders. For the first time in his life, he felt truly rich. Leo continued to spread kindness, teaching everyone that the greatest magic was not in a book but in the hearts of those who choose love over greed, kindness over selfishness. And so, the story of the magical book was never forgotten. But its greatest lesson was this: you don't need magic to change the world. You only need a kind heart. Many years passed, and Leo had grown old. His hair turned white, and his face had soft wrinkles, but his eyes still sparkled with kindness. The village had become a paradise of love and generosity. where no one was ever left alone in sadness. One evening, as the sun painted the sky with orange and pink, Leo sat under the same old tree where he had once found the magical book. He closed his eyes and let the cool breeze touch his face. He felt a deep peace in his heart, knowing he had lived a life full of meaning. As he sat in silence, he heard small footsteps approaching. He opened his eyes and saw a little boy standing in front of him. The boy had bright, curious eyes and held a tiny, torn book in his hands. "Grandfather Leo," the boy said softly, "is it true? Did you really find a magical book long ago?" Leo smiled warmly. "Yes, my child, a very special book that changed my life." The boy sat beside him, holding his book close to his chest. "I wish I could find a magical book too," he whispered. "Maybe it could make me strong, or smart, or even a great hero." Leo chuckled. "You don't need a magical book to be strong or smart, and you are already a hero." The boy's eyes widened. "I am, yes," Leo said gently. "A hero is someone who helps others, who shares what they have, and who spreads kindness wherever they go. That is real magic." The boy thought for a moment. But what happened to the magical book? Where did it go? Leo looked up at the sky, his eyes filled with wisdom. "The book disappeared after my last wish. But do you know something?" He leaned in closer, his voice soft yet powerful. "I believe the book never truly left." The boy gasped. "Where is it?" Leo placed a hand over the boy's heart. "Right here, inside you." The magic was never in the book, my child. It was in the choices I made. And that same magic lives in you, in me, and in everyone who chooses to love, to help, and to share. The boy's lips parted in wonder. "So, I can make wishes too." Leo nodded. "Every day, you have a chance to make a wish not with words, but with your actions. If you see someone hungry, you can wish for them to have food by sharing yours. If you see someone sad, you can wish for them to smile by being kind. These are the greatest wishes of all, because they don't just change one person's life. They change the whole world." The boy's heart filled with warmth. He looked at his little torn book and smiled. "Then today, I wish to help my mother because she works so hard, and I wish to share my toys with my little sister." Leo's eyes shined with pride. "Those are beautiful wishes, my boy, and they will come true because your heart is pure." That night, the little boy ran home, excited to share his kindness with the world. And as Leo watched him go, he felt something gentle in the air, like the whisper of an old friend. The magical book may have vanished, but its magic had never disappeared. It had simply passed from heart to heart, growing stronger with every act of love. And so, the village continued to shine, not because of gold or power, but because of people who understood that the greatest magic of all was kindness. If this story touched your heart, remember to spread kindness wherever you go. And if you believe in the magic of love, like and subscribe for more stories that inspire and bring warmth to the soul. Years passed, and the little boy who once sat with Leo under the old tree grew up. His name was Finn. Finn never forgot Leo's words, and he carried the magic of kindness in his heart wherever he went. Leo, now very old, spent most of his days resting under the tree, watching the village flourish. The people still loved and respected him, and whenever they had a problem, they came to him for advice. One evening, Finn rushed to Leo, out of breath. "Grandfather Leo, there's a man at the village gate. He looks tired and hungry. He has no home. What should we do?" Leo smiled softly. "What do you think we should do, my child?" Finn thought for a moment and then said, "We should welcome him, give him food, and a place to rest." Leo's smile grew wider. "Then why are you asking me? You already know the answer." Finn grinned, realizing the lesson. He ran back to the village and gathered the people. Together, they welcomed the stranger, gave him warm food, and let him stay in an empty house. The man, who had been wandering alone for years, wept with gratitude. That night, Finn sat with Leo again. "I think I understand now," Finn said. "Kindness is not something we wait for. It's something we do." Leo nodded. "Yes, my boy. And the more you give, the more it spreads, like the branches of this great tree." Finn looked up at the tree under which they sat. It had grown taller and stronger over the years, just like the kindness in the village. But time never stops. One quiet morning, as the golden sun rose over the hills, Leo took his last breath under that tree. The whole village mourned, but they also celebrated his life. Finn stood before the people. He was no longer a child but a strong young man, wise beyond his years. With tears in his eyes, he spoke. "Leo is not gone. He lives in every kind act we do, in every heart that chooses love over hate, kindness over selfishness." The villagers placed a small stone under the tree, carved with Leo's words, "Kindness is the greatest magic." Years later, Finn became the leader of the village, and just like Leo, he continued to teach the magic of kindness to new generations. And so, the magic never faded. It grew, passed from heart to heart, like the roots of the great tree, spreading deep and wide, touching lives far beyond the village. Remember this, dear listener. You don't need a magical book to change the world. You just need a kind heart. Be the magic someone needs today. Years passed, and Finn became known as the guardian of kindness. People from distant lands came to hear his wisdom, just as they once came to see Leo. The village had grown into a thriving town, filled with love, laughter, and the spirit of giving. One day, a young girl named Mira arrived in the village. She was thin, tired, and her eyes held sadness. She had traveled alone for days, searching for a place where she could belong. When she reached the village gate, she hesitated. What if they turn me away? She thought. But before she could step back, she heard a warm voice. Welcome, traveler. It was Finn. He smiled at her, just as Leo had once smiled at him. You look tired. Come, let's get you something to eat. Mira was shocked. No one had ever welcomed her like this before. She followed Finn into the village, where the people greeted her with kindness. They gave her food, water, and a place to rest. That night, as she sat under the great tree, she asked Finn, "Why are people here so kind? In the places I have been, no one helps each other." Finn looked up at the tree, its branches stretching wide, as if embracing the sky. Because kindness is our way of life, he said. Once upon a time, a man named Leo taught me that true magic is not in gold or power, but in the love we give to others. Mira listened carefully. Her heart, once filled with loneliness, now felt warm. But what if others are not kind to me? She asked. Finn smiled. Then be the first to show kindness. Sometimes, people forget the magic inside them. When you are kind to them, you remind them of who they truly are. Mira looked down at her hands. She had nothing to give, no money, no gifts. I have nothing to share, she whispered. Finn took her hand gently. You have a smile, a kind word, a helping hand. That is more powerful than anything. Tears filled Mira's eyes. No one had ever told her that before. She made a promise to herself. From that day on, she would spread kindness, no matter where life took her. And just like Leo had passed the magic to Finn, and Finn to Mira, the cycle of kindness continued, never ending, like the roots of the great tree. Many, many years later, when Finn had grown old, he sat under that same tree, telling stories to the children, just as Leo had once done. The village had become a place where kindness ruled, where no one was left hungry, where love was the greatest treasure. And somewhere, in another distant land, a young girl named Mira was sharing the same lessons with others, carrying the magic of kindness forward. Because true magic never dies. It lives in every act of love, every word of kindness, and every heart that chooses to help another. And so, dear listener, remember this. You don't need gold, riches, or even a magical book to change the world. You only need a kind heart. Be someone's magic today. Help, love, share. Because kindness is the only treasure that grows when you give it away. Many years passed, and the great tree under which Leo and Finn once sat became known as the Tree of Kindness. People from all over the world came to see it, to sit beneath its branches, and to hear the stories of love and generosity that had shaped the village. Finn had grown old, just as Leo once had. His hair was silver, and his steps were slower, but his heart remained as strong as ever. He knew his time was coming to an end, just as Leo's had. But he was not afraid, for he knew that the magic of kindness would never die. One evening, as the golden sun kissed the horizon, Finn sat under the great tree, watching the village children play. Among them was a little boy named Elias, full of questions and curiosity. "Grandfather Finn," Elias asked, sitting beside him, "is it true that you once met a magical book?" Finn chuckled softly, just as Leo had all those years ago. "Yes, my child, a very special book. Do you still have it?" Elias asked, his eyes wide with wonder. Finn shook his head. "No, the book disappeared long ago. But do you know what I learned?" Elias leaned in closer. "What?" "The book was never the true magic," Finn said, placing a gentle hand over Elias's heart. "The real magic was here, inside me, and it is inside you, too." Elias blinked, confused. "But I don't have any magic." Finn smiled. "Oh, but you do. Every time you share, every time you help someone, every time you choose kindness instead of anger, that is magic. That is what changes the world." Elias thought about this for a moment. Then he looked at the children playing and saw one little girl sitting alone. She looked sad. He stood up. "I think I understand," he said. Finn watched as Elias ran to the girl, shared his toy with her, and made her smile. His heart filled with warmth. That night, as Finn lay in his bed, he felt a soft breeze enter his room. It was warm, familiar. He closed his eyes and, in the quiet of the night, he heard a gentle voice. "Finn, you have done well," the voice whispered. "The magic lives on." Finn smiled, knowing that kindness would never fade. And as he took his last breath, the stars outside shone a little brighter. The next morning, the villagers gathered around the great tree to honor Finn's life. They carved his words into the wood. True magic is not found in books or wishes. It is found in the hearts that choose love. And so, the cycle of kindness continued, passing from heart to heart, generation after generation. Forever, dear listener, you are part of this magic, too. Every time you choose love, every time you help, you become part of this never-ending story. So, go out into the world and be someone's magic today. Because kindness, once given, never fades, it only grows. Years passed, and the village continued to shine as a place of love and kindness. The great tree stood tall, its branches spreading wide, as if embracing all who came near. The words of Leo and Finn remained carved into its bark, reminding every visitor of the magic that lived within them. And Elias, the curious boy who had once sat beside Finn, grew into a wise and kind young man. He remembered Finn's lessons and carried them in his heart. But one question still remained in his mind: the magical book. One evening, as he sat beneath the tree, watching the stars twinkle in the sky, he whispered, "Where did the magical book go?" The wind rustled through the leaves as if answering him. Determined to find out, Elias set off on a journey beyond the village. He traveled to distant lands, met many people, and listened to their stories. Some were rich but lonely, others were poor but happy. Some had seen war, while others had never known peace. Everywhere he went, he shared the lessons of kindness, just as Leo had taught Finn and Finn had taught him. He gave food to the hungry, comforted the sad, and helped those in need. One day, in a faraway city, he met an old woman sitting alone by a fountain. She looked tired and forgotten, as if the world had left her behind. Elias sat beside her. "Are you all right, grandmother?" he asked gently. The woman sighed. "Once, I had everything: wealth, beauty, power, but I never shared it. I only thought of myself. And now, I have nothing." Elias took her hand and smiled. "You still have something," he said. "You have today, and today, you can choose kindness." The woman's eyes filled with tears. No one had spoken to her so kindly in years. At that moment, she felt something change within her. She stood up, walked to a nearby bakery, and bought bread not for herself, but for the homeless children sitting on the street. As she handed them the bread, something incredible happened. Her heart, once heavy with regret, felt light. She smiled a true, deep smile for the first time in years. Elias watched, knowing that the magic of kindness had touched another soul. That night, as he rested under the stars, he realized something. The magical book had never been lost. It had simply become part of the world, written in the actions of those who chose kindness with a heart full of peace. Elias returned to his village, carrying the greatest treasure of all, the knowledge that true magic is not in wishes but in the love we give. And so, the story continued, passed from one heart to another, never ending, like the roots of the great tree. And now, dear listener, it is your turn. The magic is inside you. Every smile you share, every hand you help, every heart you touch, it all matters. Go out into the world and be someone's magic today, because kindness is the only treasure that grows when you give it away. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's keep spreading love, one story at a time. You said, years went by, and Elias became the new guardian of kindness, just as Finn and Leo had been before him. He no longer searched for the magical book, because he had finally understood the book had never been bound by pages. Its words were written in the hearts of those who chose love over fear, kindness over greed. The village had grown into a great town, and its spirit of generosity spread far beyond its borders. Travelers came not just to see the great tree, but to feel the warmth of a place where people truly cared for one another. One day, a young girl named Liana arrived in the village. She had heard stories of this special place but did not believe them. People are not kind for no reason, she thought. There must be something they are hiding. She wandered through the town, watching carefully. She saw a baker giving extra bread to a poor family without asking for payment. She saw a farmer helping a stranger fix his broken cart. She saw children sharing their toys without arguing. Liana was confused. Why do they do this? She wondered. What do they gain? As she walked through the village, she came across Elias, now older but still strong in spirit. He was sitting under the great tree, watching the sunset. Are you the guardian of this place? She asked. Elias smiled. No, my child. Kindness is the guardian of this place. I am only its messenger. Liana hesitated. But why? Why are people here so kind when the world outside is full of selfishness and pain? Elias looked at her with gentle eyes. Because we choose to be. We have learned that when we give, we do not lose, we grow. When we help, we do not become weak, we become strong. And when we love, we do not break, we heal. Liana lowered her head. She had known pain, loss, and loneliness. She had never believed that kindness could be real. But here, in this village, she saw something different, something pure. But what if someone takes advantage of kindness? She asked. Elias nodded. Sometimes they do, but that is not a reason to stop. A candle does not refuse to shine just because the night is dark. It shines anyway, because that is its purpose. Liana felt something shift in her heart. She sat beside Elias and watched as the villagers continued their acts of kindness, not for rewards, not for recognition, but simply because they believed in it. That night, for the first time in a long time, Liana felt something she had forgotten: hope. The next morning, she made a choice. She picked up a broom and swept the village streets. She helped an elderly woman carry water. She gave her scarf to a child who was cold. And as she did these things, she felt lighter, as if a burden she had carried for years was finally lifting. Elias watched from afar and smiled. Another heart had found the magic. And so, Liana stayed in the village, not because she had nowhere else to go, but because she had found something priceless: the joy of giving. The years went on, and just as Elias had once learned from Finn, and Finn from Leo, Liana carried the lessons forward. The village remained a beacon of light in a world that often forgot the power of love. But the story does not end here, because now, dear listener, it is your turn. The magic has reached you. It is in your hands, in your heart, in every choice you make. So go out and be the reason someone smiles today. Be the hand that lifts another. Be the kindness that changes a life. Because in the end, the greatest magic is not found in a book or a wish. It is found in you. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's keep spreading love, one story at a time.